With the release of the new Street Fighter movie later this year, many people will be looking at the fighting styles of the characters within it. Of course, starting off on video games and in arcades, many may think that these systems are fictionalized, but there is some truth to all of the systems used. And from the main villain, Bison, we find Lerdrit. Of course, it does have psycho power added for the films and for the games, but if we remove psycho power from Bison, what you're left with is not a flying dictator, but a very particular kind of close quarters fighter. And interestingly, that version of Bison lines up far more closely with real-world Lerdrit than most people may realise. The Drit is a Thai military close combat system. It's not a sport, it's not a performance-based system, and that it's not designed for prolonged exchanges. Its purpose is rapid domination of an opponent at close range using strikes, off-balancing, joint destruction, and positional control. When you strip away supernatural elements from Bison, those priorities start to matter a lot. A powerless Bison would not be jumping across arenas or launching himself horizontally through the air. That kind of movement violates basic human biomechanics and balance. Instead, his fighting would be grounded, compact, and forward driving. The Drit emphasizes closing distance aggressively, not dancing at range. The fighter advances into the opponent's space, collapses their structure, and denies them room to operate. That matches Bison's character far more than the acrobatics people associate with him. Without psycho power, Bison's intimidation would come from pressure, not spectacle. In real combat systems like Lerdrit, dominance is established through posture, eyeline, and relentless forward intent. You don't retreat to reset. You advance to overwhelm. A realistic Bison would constantly take ground, forcing the opponent backward, limiting their options and exhausting their ability to think tactically. Many of Bison's signature movements can be reinterpreted this way. Take the idea behind the scissors kick. In the game, it's exaggerated and airborne. In reality, repeated forward-driving knee strikes combined with destabilizing foot sweeps are common in close-quarters systems. The principle is not jumping, the principle is breaking posture while staying upright and balanced. A real version would involve stepping in, striking the thigh or hip, and using the leg to disrupt the opponent's base while the upper body controls the head or arms. The same applies to Bison's apparent reliance on power rather than finesse. The Drit does not prioritize elegance. It prioritizes efficiency under stress. Strikes are delivered with intent to disable, not to score points. Targets are pragmatic: neck, jawline, collarbone, groin, knees. A powerless Bison would fight ugly, direct, and brutally close. That aligns with Lerdrit's military context, where legality and aesthetics are irrelevant. Clinch work would become central. In reality, controlling the opponent's head and spine is one of the fastest ways to dominate a fight. The Drit uses grips, frames, and leverage to off-balance and strike simultaneously. A realistic Bison would spend little time at long range. He would crash in, establish a clinch, and work from there, using short strikes and throws to put the opponent down quickly. What disappears entirely is the idea of sustained combos delivered at range. Real combat systems don't rely on memorized sequences, they rely on principles: balance, pressure, structure, and intent. A real Bison would adapt continuously, using whatever presents itself, rather than executing pre-planned strings of attacks. That unpredictability is far more dangerous than flashy repetition. Another misconception is that removing psycho power makes Bison less threatening. In reality, it arguably makes him more plausible. A human fighter trained in a system like the Drit does not need supernatural force to dominate an untrained opponent. The threat comes from decision-making speed, tolerance for violence, and refusal to disengage. A powerless bison would still be terrifying, not because he floats, but because he never gives space. Psychologically, this version of Bison fits his character better. Control is not achieved through explosions or levitation, but through suffocation. The opponent feels trapped, rushed, and overwhelmed. That is exactly how close quarters combat is meant to feel when executed well. The fight ends not when the opponent is knocked out in a dramatic fashion, but when they can no longer continue resisting. It's also worth noting that a real bison would avoid high kicks, spinning attacks, and aerial movement are liabilities in real combat. They expose balance and create openings. The Drit prioritizes staying on your feet and maintaining structural integrity. A realistic bison would be conservative with his movements, explosive only when it serves a clear purpose, and immediately stabilized afterward. So when you imagine M. Bison without psycho power, don't imagine a weaker version of the same character. Imagine a quieter, heavier, more oppressive presence, one that arguably fits his character far more. A fighter who advances without hesitation, closes distance ruthlessly, controls the body rather than the air, and ends fights quickly at close range. That version is not just believable, it's consistent with real-world close combat principles. In that sense, removing the powers that we see in the video game doesn't strip Bison of his identity. It reveals the part of it that was always grounded in something real. Not a made-up fictional martial art, but one that is very, very dangerous indeed. If you'd like to hear us talk about more areas of martial arts, culture, and far more, please do like, comment, and subscribe, and thank you for watching.